A lot of retirees carry the same quiet question for years. Can I really afford to travel on the income I already have? Or is that dream only for people with bigger pensions and portfolios? Usually the fear is not just the cost of a trip. The real fear is doing damage without seeing it soon enough. Using money too quickly. Coming home to stress. Realizing that a beautiful trip created pressure for the next 6 months. The encouraging truth is that for many retirees in Canada and the United States, the answer is yes, but only if the style of travel fits the retirement income reality. That is the key. Not fantasy travel, not social media travel. Real travel that works inside a real retirement. The goal is not to take one exciting trip and then worry about the bills. The goal is to build a version of travel that still feels calm, repeatable, and worth continuing. If you enjoy practical guidance for travel after 55, subscribe to Travel Choir and turn on notifications. The wrong question is, how much money do I need to travel? It sounds reasonable, but it is too broad to help much. A better question is, after my normal life is covered, how much flexible income and planned savings can I safely direct toward travel each year? That change matters. Travel can mean one regional getaway, or a month in a slow travel base abroad. It can mean cruises, frequent flights, or several international trips. Those are all forms of travel, but they place very different demands on cash flow. This is why comparison is so unhelpful. Online, some retirees seem to be permanently in Europe, always on a plane, always posting from another cafe or cruise deck. But what you are seeing may not be sustainable, or it may depend on resources, home equity, family support, or past savings decisions that are nothing like yours. So do not begin with airfare. Begin with your base life. Housing, food, insurance, healthcare, transport, debt, taxes, home maintenance, and family obligations come first. Travel sits on top of that. If retirement income already feels stretched before travel enters the picture, cheaper flights are not the solution. The base budget needs work first. But if your essentials are covered, and there is real breathing room, travel may be more realistic than you think. CPP, OAS, and Social Security are foundational income streams. They create stability, but they are not automatically travel income. They are designed to support retirement living first. Travel has to fit on top of that foundation. Savings add flexibility, but only when they are used deliberately. It helps to think of each source in terms of its role. Guaranteed monthly income supports the core life. Savings create options. Together, they may support travel very well, but only if the relationship between them is clear. For some retirees, monthly income is strong enough to fund modest travel from cash flow alone. For others, travel works only if it is combined with planned withdrawals from savings. For others, travel is possible, but only if it becomes slower, simpler, and more selective. This is why retirees with similar total wealth can end up with very different travel realities. One person may have moderate benefits and modest savings, but very low monthly costs. Another may have more assets overall, but higher fixed costs, more debt, or more obligations. On paper, the second person may look wealthier. In practice, the first person may have more usable room for travel. So the key is not just net worth, it is monthly breathing room. A retiree with predictable income, low fixed costs, and a defined travel fund often travels more calmly than someone with a larger portfolio, but no structure. If you want a real answer, run a simple affordability test. First, figure out the true monthly cost of your non-travel life. Be honest. Include prescriptions, subscriptions, insurance, gifts, home repairs, car repairs, property taxes, and all those irregular costs people pretend do not count because they do not show up every month. Second, compare that number to dependable retirement income. Not best-case income, not a great market year, dependable income. Third, decide how much of any surplus can realistically go into a dedicated travel fund. That is the turning point. Once travel has its own bucket, the question becomes clearer. You stop funding trips vaguely and start funding them intentionally. That protects both finances and peace of mind. Travel becomes dangerous when it is funded in a blurry way. A flight here, a hotel there, an upgrade that felt harmless, and then a painful card statement later. That is not freedom. That is drift. The goal is to know the annual travel number before spending it. Once you know that number, the questions improve. Can I take one longer trip instead of 3 scattered ones? Can I travel in shoulder season? Can I stay longer in one place instead of moving every few days? Can I choose slower travel over more flights? One of the most encouraging truths about retirement travel is that the style many people end up enjoying most is often the style that costs less. Fewer rushed itineraries, fewer expensive transitions, more time in one place, more walking, cooking, resting, and settling in. The smartest retirees do not ask, "Can I afford travel?" They ask, "What kind of travel fits my income without putting pressure on the rest of my life?" If income is modest but stable, regional travel may be ideal. That could mean road trips, nearby flights, off-season city stays, or one carefully chosen international trip each year. If income is stronger and fixed costs are low, several trips a year may be realistic. If monthly income is average, but savings are healthy, travel may work beautifully as long as those savings are used intentionally rather than emotionally. The important thing is fit, not volume, not status, not how many countries someone else visited this year. One retiree may want to collect destinations. Another may want 5 slow weeks in one beautiful, walkable place. The second retiree may spend less, enjoy more, and keep traveling longer. That is not settling. That is designing a travel life that matches retirement reality. A simple planning worksheet can help here. Before booking anything major, it helps to test the trip on paper. Does it fit the monthly income, the savings plan, and the comfort level? A calm decision before booking is usually much cheaper than a rushed decision later. Savings can absolutely support travel. In many cases, they should. But there is a big difference between planned use and casual use. Planned use says, "We will allocate this amount from savings for travel this year." Casual use says, "We'll figure it out as we go." That second approach is where problems usually begin. A lot of retirees fall into the same pattern. One trip seems manageable, then another opportunity appears, then a family event, then a cancellation, then ordinary living costs rise faster than expected. None of those things seems huge on its own, but together they create a spending rhythm that was never deliberately chosen. That is why guardrails matter. One useful guardrail is separating savings mentally into roles. Security money should not quietly become vacation money just because a fare looked attractive. Another is setting an annual travel ceiling before the year starts. Another is reducing trip ambition in years when markets are down, inflation is high, or household surprises are stacking up. That flexibility is not weakness. It is what protects long-term freedom. Retirees who travel well for years usually think in systems. They treat travel as a recurring part of life that needs balance. Retirees who create stress often treat travel as a reward that sits outside the normal rules of budgeting. But retirement does not really work that way. The best travel usually grows out of stability, not escape. If you want help pressure testing your numbers, check the resources in the description. A simple planning worksheet can save you from expensive guesswork. Sometimes the answer looks like yes on paper, but hidden costs quietly turn it into something harder in real life. That includes travel medical insurance, exchange rate swings, accommodation taxes, airport transfers, mobile data, card fees, banking friction, extra nights caused by delays, and the general cost of needing more flexibility than you expected. Healthcare is especially important after 55. A trip that looks cheap can become very expensive if you underinsure it. The goal is not to travel as cheaply as possible. The goal is to travel in a way that does not expose you to one bad event that wipes out the savings from every other smart choice you made. Taxes and benefit timing matter too. Monthly benefit decisions, household income, and the timing of withdrawals all affect how much room you really have. It means travel decisions should not be made in isolation from the rest of retirement planning. A travel plan that ignores insurance, taxes, currency reality, and surprise costs is not a real plan. It is hopeful math. So can you really travel on CPP, OAS, Social Security, and savings? For many retirees, yes. But the more accurate answer is this. Many retirees can travel if they stop trying to force a lifestyle their current numbers do not support. Travel is often possible sooner than people think, but it works best when the style matches the income. If essentials are covered, debt is controlled, healthcare planning is solid, and you can create either monthly travel surplus or a planned annual draw from savings. Then travel is not reckless. It is a valid part of retirement. It may not look like non-stop flights and constant movement. It may look like one meaningful international trip, a few regional escapes, or a slow stay in one good base city. That still counts. For many retirees, it counts more because it is sustainable. If fixed costs are already eating most of the income, savings withdrawals already feel uncomfortable, and every trip depends on hoping nothing else goes wrong. Then the answer for now may be not yet, or not in that form. That is not failure. That is clarity. It tells you what needs to change first. The dream is not proving that you can spend money on travel. The dream is building a retirement where travel adds richness instead of stress. Travel after 55 does not have to be all or nothing. It does not require being wealthy. But it does require honesty. You need to know what your base life costs, what guaranteed income actually supports, what role savings should play, and what style of travel fits the real numbers. Once you do that, travel starts to feel less like a gamble and more like a sustainable part of retirement life. If this helped you think more clearly about what is truly affordable, subscribe to Travel Choir, like the video, and share it with someone who is trying to figure out whether retirement travel is realistic on the income they already have. And tell me in the comments, are you hoping to fund travel mostly from monthly retirement income, mostly from savings, or from a mix of both?